Every one of us has been told to set goals. Since childhood, we've been taught to dream big, to write down what we want, to chase milestones, to imagine the finish line. And while that advice sounds good, there's something deeply flawed about it. Because most people who set goals never actually reach them. Not because they're not motivated or talented, but because they're focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on the outcome instead of the process. They're chasing destinations instead of building directions. The truth is, goals can inspire you, but they can also trap you. They make you believe that happiness, success, and fulfillment live somewhere in the future, after you've achieved something. And so people spend their lives chasing the next thing, the next job, the next number, the next win. But the moment you hit one goal, another appears. The finish line keeps moving, and satisfaction keeps slipping further away. That's why so many people feel lost even when they're achieving. They're climbing, but they don't know where their ladder is leaning. What if success isn't about setting goals at all? What if it's about building systems? Repeatable, reliable structures that move you forward every day, no matter what. Systems are different. Systems don't depend on motivation or perfect conditions. Systems don't wait for inspiration. They're the habits, the patterns, the daily decisions that build momentum over time. They're what keep you progressing even when you don't feel like it. Because when you have a system, you don't have to chase progress. Progress finds you. This speech is about that shift. It's about understanding why goals might give you a destination, but systems give you direction. It's about why true success is built not in the outcome, but in the process. It's about how systems turn discipline into identity, how they give you control when everything else feels uncertain, and how mastering your system makes success inevitable. Because once you stop obsessing over where you want to be and start perfecting how you move, everything changes. You stop chasing success, and you start becoming the kind of person who attracts it. Most people are obsessed with setting goals. They love writing them down, visualizing them, dreaming about them, chasing them. Goals make us feel like we're aiming high, like we're reaching for something greater. They give us a sense of purpose, a reason to wake up early and work harder. But here's the problem with goals. They only give you a destination, not a direction. A goal tells you where you want to end up, but it doesn't tell you how to get there. It's like having a map with a pin on the final location, but no roads drawn between where you are and where you want to go. And this is where most people get lost. They get so caught up in where they want to be that they forget to focus on what they should be doing today to get there. Goals are seductive because they're clear and measurable. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to make 6 figures. I want to start my own business. But goals also create pressure. Every day you wake up and realize you're still far from that goal. You feel behind. You feel like you're not enough. You start comparing yourself to others who seem closer to their goals, and that comparison slowly eats away at your motivation. And when the goal feels too distant, when progress feels slow, people quit. Not because they're not capable, but because they never built a system to sustain them on the journey. A system is different. A system is what you do every single day, regardless of how close or far the destination feels. It's your process, your rhythm, your structure. If your goal is to write a book, your system is writing for an hour every morning. If your goal is to get fit, your system is showing up to the gym 4 days a week, even when you don't feel like it. If your goal is to build a business, your system is focusing on creating value for one customer at a time. Systems turn effort into habit and habit into identity. With systems, you stop asking, how far am I? And start asking, am I showing up today? When you have a system, you don't need to rely on motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes depending on how you feel. Systems remove the emotion from progress. You don't have to feel inspired to do the work. You just do it because it's part of who you are. That's the difference between people who dream of success and people who actually build it. The dreamers are always chasing a goal. The builders are mastering a system. Think about athletes. Every champion has a goal: to win. But if you ask them what makes them great, they rarely talk about the goal. They talk about their routine, their training schedule, their practice habits, their nutrition, their recovery. Their focus is never just on the finish line, it's on the steps that lead there. Because they understand that when you commit to the system, the goal takes care of itself. Having a goal gives you something to aim for, but having a system gives you something to rely on. Life is unpredictable. Plans change. Markets shift. Opportunities come and go. When you're obsessed with goals, any setback feels like failure. When you're committed to a system, setbacks are just feedback. You learn, you adjust, you keep going. The direction stays the same even if the path changes. Systems build resilience because they train you to stay consistent through uncertainty. Most people think success is about willpower, but it's really about design. If your environment, habits, and mindset are designed to help you win each day, success becomes a byproduct. It's not about setting bigger goals, it's about building better systems. You can't control outcomes, but you can control your process. And over time, the process compounds. Small improvements done consistently create massive change. That's why some people seem to achieve so much without looking like they're forcing it. They're not chasing, they're flowing. Their system keeps them in motion. Every day they wake up and follow their process. They don't need to see the top of the mountain to keep climbing. They just need to take the next step. And that's the beauty of systems. They keep you grounded in action. They remind you that greatness isn't built in one giant leap. It's built in small, deliberate, daily movements. When you focus only on goals, you're always measuring what's missing. When you focus on systems, you're measuring what's working. One keeps you in a state of constant dissatisfaction. The other keeps you in a state of progress. The person who builds systems stops worrying about how long it will take and starts trusting that if they do the right things consistently, the right results will follow. They understand that the real satisfaction doesn't come from reaching the destination. It comes from mastering the direction. We live in a world obsessed with outcomes. Everywhere you look, people celebrate the finish line, the promotion, the trophy, the followers, the bank balance. We glorify the result, but often ignore the process that made it possible. The problem with this mindset is that it makes success feel distant, almost unreachable, because all we see are the outcomes others have achieved, not the work they've endured to get there. But the truth is, success isn't built in the moments of recognition. It's built in the quiet, consistent effort that no one sees. It's built in the early mornings, the late nights, the repetitions, the failures, and the adjustments. The outcome is just the proof. The process is the foundation. The process is where you grow. It's where you learn what you're capable of, where you develop resilience, patience, and skill. Most people want the rewards of success without the struggle that forges it. They want the result but resist the routine. But real success doesn't come from doing something once, it comes from doing it over and over again, especially when you don't feel like it. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. Anyone can be motivated for a week, but can you stay committed for years? Can you keep showing up when no one's watching, when progress feels invisible, when doubt creeps in? That's where success is built, in the process, not the outcome. When you fall in love with the process, something shifts. You stop chasing validation. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's timeline. You start focusing on improvement instead of perfection. You start measuring progress in effort instead of results. The process gives you purpose each day. It's what turns someday into every day. You begin to realize that success isn't an event that happens in the future. It's something you live out in the present. Every rep, every page, every call, every practice, it all counts. Every small step forward compounds over time, and that compounding is what leads to the breakthroughs everyone else calls overnight success. The outcome, on the other hand, can be deceptive. It gives you a temporary sense of accomplishment, but it doesn't last because once you reach one outcome, you'll want another. Once you achieve one goal, you'll set a bigger one. The cycle never ends. That's why so many people feel unfulfilled even after achieving what they thought would make them happy. They never learn to enjoy the process. They never learn to find meaning in the climb. Success built only on outcomes is fragile because it depends on external validation. But success built on process is sustainable because it depends on your internal growth. Think about the greatest artists, athletes, and innovators in history. Their success wasn't just about talent, it was about their relentless commitment to the process. Michael Jordan didn't become a legend because he dreamed of championships. He became one because he practiced longer, harder, and smarter than everyone else. Writers who create masterpieces don't wait for inspiration, They sit down every day and write, even when it feels impossible. Entrepreneurs who change industries don't just chase profits, they fall in love with solving problems, testing ideas, learning from mistakes, and improving systems. The process is where excellence is born, refined, and sustained. When you focus only on outcomes, failure feels final. When you focus on the process, failure becomes feedback. Every mistake teaches you something. Every setback builds character. Every challenge shapes you into someone stronger. That's why the process is more valuable than the prize, because who you become along the way matters more than what you get at the end. The process transforms you from the inside out. It teaches you discipline, humility, and patience. It teaches you to persist when things aren't working, to adapt when plans fall apart, and to trust yourself even when the world doubts you. The process also brings peace. When your self-worth isn't tied to the result, you stop living in fear of failure. You understand that progress isn't always visible, but it's always happening. You start to appreciate the journey instead of rushing through it. And ironically, when you stop obsessing over the outcome and start focusing on the process, you end up achieving more than you ever imagined. Because you're no longer distracted by how far you still have to go, you're grounded in what you can do right now. You're focused on execution, not expectation. Success is not a single moment, it's a continuous state of growth. It's the ability to show up, to try again, to improve, and to keep going. The process builds habits, and habits build character. And character, not luck, is what determines who sustains success over time. Anyone can win once, but only those who master the process can keep winning. The process gives you clarity when the outcome feels uncertain. It keeps you moving when the motivation fades. It reminds you that success isn't something you chase. It's something you build one step, one decision, one action at a time. Discipline is often seen as the ability to force yourself to do what you don't want to do. People think it's about willpower, about pushing through resistance, about grinding your way forward every single day. And while that's partly true, the deeper truth is that real discipline isn't about forcing action. It's about designing your environment and habits in a way that makes the right actions automatic. That's what systems do. Systems take discipline, something that feels effortful, and turn it into identity, something that feels natural. When you create a system that aligns with who you want to become, discipline stops being something you need to summon. It becomes something you live. Think about this. When someone says, "I'm disciplined," what they usually mean is, "I've built systems that support my desired behaviors." It's not that they wake up every morning filled with motivation and willpower. It's that their life is structured around routines, habits, and standards that make discipline inevitable. If you have a system for eating healthy, you don't have to rely on self-control at every meal. If you have a system for exercising, you don't have to debate whether to work out or not. It's already part of your day. The system does the heavy lifting so your mind doesn't have to. Discipline without systems burns out. Systems without discipline never start. But when the two merge, transformation happens. Systems give discipline a home, a rhythm, a framework. They create consistency, and consistency shapes identity. Because identity isn't something you declare, it's something you demonstrate over and over again through your actions. You don't become a writer by setting a goal to write a book. You become a writer by writing every day. You don't become an athlete by dreaming about fitness. You become one by showing up to train, even when it's inconvenient. The repetition of disciplined behavior, powered by a reliable system, rewires how you see yourself. It shifts your narrative from "I'm trying" to "I am." This is the subtle yet powerful shift that separates temporary success from lasting transformation. When your sense of self catches up to your habits, the struggle disappears. You no longer need to convince yourself to act in alignment with your goals. You act because it's who you are. A person who identifies as healthy doesn't have to fight cravings. Their choices naturally reflect their identity. A person who identifies as a learner doesn't have to force themselves to read. They do it because it's part of their system of being. Systems, when practiced long enough, don't just produce results. They produce a new version of you. The beauty of systems is that they remove friction. They take decisions that would normally require effort and make them automatic. They replace chaos with clarity. And this clarity gives discipline a sustainable structure. Most people fail not because they lack motivation, but because their systems are weak or undefined. They're relying on sheer willpower, and willpower is a limited resource. It fades with fatigue, stress, and distraction. But systems, once established, operate regardless of emotion. You don't need to feel disciplined, you just need to follow the system. This is why the most successful people in the world often appear calm and consistent. It's not that they have more discipline, it's that they've built stronger systems. They've created environments that make their desired behaviors the default option. They don't waste energy deciding what to do. The decision has already been made by the system they designed. That's how discipline evolves into identity. It's no longer about choosing between comfort and growth. It's about living in alignment with who you've become. The process of turning discipline into identity also changes your relationship with failure. When you have systems in place, setbacks don't define you, they refine you. You don't abandon your progress after one mistake because the system brings you back on track. You might miss a day, but you don't lose the habit. You might stumble, but you don't stop. Systems create resilience because they provide a safety net, a structure that keeps you grounded in your routines, even when life gets unpredictable. And that's the point. Most people miss discipline isn't about perfection. It's about consistency within a system that allows imperfection. A well-built system gives you permission to fail forward. It gives you the flexibility to adjust without quitting. Over time, this consistency becomes your standard, and that standard becomes your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who's trying to be disciplined. You see yourself as someone who is disciplined, and that belief changes everything. Systems also shape how others see you. People start to trust your reliability because they see your consistency. They know you'll show up not because of external pressure, but because it's in your nature. That's what true discipline looks like. Not rigid control, but steady alignment between what you value and how you live. Systems turn that alignment into something repeatable, predictable, and scalable. Eventually, the discipline that once felt like effort becomes effortless. The choices that once felt heavy become second nature. You stop negotiating with yourself because you've already made the decision through the system you built. You're no longer chasing discipline, you've become it. You're not pretending to be the kind of person who follows through. You are that person. And that's the quiet power of systems. They turn discipline from an act of will into a reflection of identity. Control is one of the most misunderstood aspects of success. Most people think control means having power over everything, outcomes, timelines, people, or circumstances. But real control doesn't come from trying to manage everything around you. It comes from managing what's within you. It comes from your habits, your consistency, your systems. When you focus on systems, you're not trying to predict the future or force results. You're creating a structure that allows you to stay steady no matter what happens. Systems give you control over the only thing that truly matters, your process. When you focus solely on goals, you give control away. Goals are dependent on external factors, timing, opportunities, and sometimes luck. You can set a goal to double your income or to hit a specific target, but so much of that is influenced by things you can't fully control. That's why people who only chase goals often feel anxious or frustrated. They're constantly living in a gap, the distance between where they are and where they want to be. Every delay feels like a failure. Every obstacle feels like a threat. But when you focus on systems, that pressure dissolves. Because systems are built around actions you can control today. They turn uncertainty into structure and chaos into clarity. Systems create stability in motion. Life will always throw challenges your way, unexpected problems, failures, delays. If you depend on motivation or perfect conditions, you'll lose momentum the moment things get difficult. But if you have a system, you stay grounded. You keep moving forward because your process doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you've built. A writer with a system doesn't stop creating because of writer's block. They write through it. A business owner with a system doesn't panic when sales dip. They trust the process of improving their product, marketing, and service. Systems give you control by anchoring you in the present, by shifting your attention from what might happen to what you can do right now. The beauty of systems is that they make consistency possible. And consistency is where real control lies. You can't control outcomes, but you can control how often you show up, how you respond, how you refine your work. Systems turn discipline into rhythm and rhythm into progress. When you follow your system day after day, you start to feel a deep sense of confidence, not because everything's perfect, but because you know you're in motion. You know you're doing what needs to be done. You're no longer reactive to results, you're proactive about your actions. That shift from reaction to intention is where personal power is born. When you focus on systems, you also reclaim control over your emotions. Goals often create a roller coaster. Highs when you're close, lows when you're far. Systems keep you emotionally balanced. You measure success by effort, not just results. You celebrate progress, not perfection. You stop being addicted to the finish line and start enjoying the process of becoming better. And when you enjoy the process, you stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop doubting. Because the system gives you a sense of direction that doesn't depend on external validation. Systems also help you make better decisions. When you have a structure for how you operate, you don't waste energy deciding what to do next. You already know. Decision fatigue disappears because your priorities are clear. You're not reacting to distractions or chasing shiny opportunities. You're staying aligned with your system. That's how successful people maintain focus in a world full of noise. They're not more talented, they're just more structured. Their systems protect their attention and energy from being scattered. Every action they take fits into a larger framework, and that framework keeps them in control even when things around them get chaotic. Without systems, control becomes an illusion. You might feel like you're in charge because you're setting goals and making plans, but in reality, you're at the mercy of your emotions and circumstances. One bad day, one piece of bad news, and the whole plan falls apart. Systems protect you from that. They give you something to fall back on when things go wrong. They make progress inevitable because they remove the need for constant decision, making an emotional negotiation. You don't have to feel inspired, you just follow the system. Systems also give you control over your pace. In a world obsessed with speed, it's easy to burn out trying to get everything done faster. But systems teach patience. They teach sustainability. They remind you that success is not about how fast you reach the goal, but how long you can keep going. A good system isn't built for sprints, it's built for marathons. It allows you to move forward without collapsing under pressure. And that's slow. Steady progress creates a deeper kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't disappear when life gets difficult. Focusing on systems also changes how you view success. You start to realize that success isn't about one big win. It's about a collection of small, consistent wins stacked over time. Every routine, every task, every repetition becomes a step forward. Systems keep you engaged in those steps. They make the process of progress tangible. Instead of chasing an invisible finish line, you live in the rhythm of daily improvement. And that's where true control exists, in showing up today and doing what matters now. Ultimately, when you focus on systems, you take control of your growth. You no longer depend on luck, timing, or motivation. You create momentum through structure. You build a life where progress isn't a hope, it's a habit. You may not control what happens tomorrow, but you control how you prepare for it today. And that, more than anything else, is what gives you real control over your future. Success is never an accident. It's not the result of luck, timing, or talent alone. Success is the natural byproduct of a well-designed system that is practiced, refined, and mastered over time. When you master the system, success becomes inevitable because the process itself guarantees progress. You no longer have to hope for results or chase outcomes. You create them through consistency. The beauty of mastering a system is that it removes uncertainty from the journey. You don't have to wonder if you'll succeed. You just have to commit to the process long enough for success to catch up. The people who achieve extraordinary things in life aren't necessarily the smartest or the most gifted. They're the ones who have mastered a system that works for them, a set of habits, routines, and behaviors that move them forward every single day. They don't rely on inspiration or luck because their system makes progress automatic. When you build a system that aligns with your goals and values, and then you master it, you create a predictable path to success. It might not be fast, but it's consistent. And consistency always wins over intensity. Mastery of a system means you understand the relationship between your inputs and your outcomes. You know what matters and what doesn't. You stop wasting time on distractions that look productive but aren't. You focus on the small, repeatable actions that create leverage over time. A great system doesn't depend on how you feel, it depends on what you do. And when you master that level of self-command, when your process becomes stronger than your emotions, success is no longer a question of if, but when. Think about how a pilot flies a plane. Every flight follows a system pre-flight checks, communication protocols, altitude adjustments, and safety measures. Pilots don't improvise mid-air, they follow systems designed to ensure safe arrival. The same principle applies to life and work. If your system is strong enough, you can handle turbulence without panic. You stay steady because you trust the process. Mastering your system gives you that same level of confidence and calm. It allows you to operate effectively even when conditions are unpredictable. Most people fail not because they lack goals, but because they lack systems. They set big ambitions but have no consistent way of achieving them. They want to get fit but don't have a system for nutrition or exercise. They want to grow their business but don't have a system for creating value or reaching customers. They rely on bursts of motivation instead of building frameworks that make success automatic. Mastering a system is about building predictability into your progress so that even on bad days you move forward. Mastering your system also means mastering yourself. It's about developing discipline, patience, and focus. A system forces you to confront your weaknesses, your procrastination, your distractions, your excuses, and replace them with patterns of consistency. It holds you accountable. It removes the emotional drama from progress. You stop chasing perfection and start chasing repetition. And in that repetition, something powerful happens, you improve. Slowly, quietly, methodically, you get better. And one day, you look back and realize how far your system has taken you. Success built on systems is sustainable. It doesn't collapse under pressure because it's not built on temporary motivation or one-time effort. It's built on structure. Systems are like engines. Once they're tuned and running smoothly, they generate power with less effort. The more you refine them, the more efficient they become. Over time, you start getting better results with less struggle because your system is doing the work for you. That's what mastery looks like. Not working harder, but working smarter within a framework that guarantees growth. Mastering a system also frees you from the constant anxiety of results. When you're focused only on outcomes, every failure feels like a setback. But when you've mastered your process, failure becomes part of the system, feedback that helps you improve. You don't lose confidence because you know the system works. You just adjust, learn, and move forward. That's why systems create resilience. They give you a foundation strong enough to handle uncertainty. You're not reacting to the chaos of life. You're operating from a place of control and clarity. When you reach the point of mastery, your system becomes your identity. It's no longer something you do. It's who you are. A musician who practices daily isn't just someone who plays an instrument. They are a musician. A leader who listens, learns, and communicates consistently isn't just someone in charge. They are a leader. Mastery of the system blurs the line between doing and being. You embody the process, and that embodiment naturally produces success. The greatest part about mastering a system is that it makes growth continuous. You never really arrive, you evolve. Each time you repeat your system, you discover new efficiencies, new insights, new ways to improve. The process keeps refining itself through you. Success becomes a natural outcome of your evolution, not a distant goal you have to chase. And that's the quiet power of systems. Once mastered, they make excellence inevitable. You no longer need to prove yourself or push yourself in desperate bursts. You just follow the system you've built, and the results unfold as a reflection of your consistency. In the end, what separates those who succeed from those who merely wish for success is not luck, not talent, and not even timing. It's systems. Systems are the silent engines of progress. They're what keep you moving when motivation fades, when the excitement of setting goals wears off, and when no one is watching. Because the truth is, anyone can set a goal. Anyone can write down a dream, hang a vision board, or make a list of things they want to achieve. But few people have the patience and persistence to design a system that turns those dreams into reality. Systems force you to show up, not just once, but every day. They build habits, routines, and consistency that compound over time. They transform you into the kind of person who doesn't just chase success. You become someone who naturally attracts it through your actions, your discipline, and your focus. Goals can inspire you, but systems shape you. They teach you to fall in love with the process, not the prize. And when you fall in love with the process, you can't lose. Because every step you take within a system is progress. Every repetition, every small improvement, every disciplined action is a brick in the foundation of something greater. You stop worrying about when you'll arrive because you realize you're already moving in the right direction. You start trusting the process. You start trusting yourself. So instead of asking, what do I want to achieve? Ask yourself, what system am I willing to commit to every day? Because once you master your system, your mindset, your habits, your process, success stops being a question of if. It becomes a matter of when.